it's a little bit boring, right? I mean, I mean, it is useful and essential stuff, but it is nonetheless a little bit on the boring side. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the solution of subroutine 1, because subroutine 1 is a homework assignment that you guys have done, well, a few weeks ago. Yep.
We had talked yesterday about how I was at the convention.
Oh.
When it was due, can I step out while you go over it? Talking about augmenting it for me.
Well, we can change it, so you can work on a different assignment.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if since I wanted to bring it up before you went over.
Well, there's nothing really that new about this assignment. I mean, so I would just change the nature of the assignment, and you can work on the alternate version of it.
You actually went through it.
Hmm?
You did.
Oh, I did? Okay, all right, thanks. And I don't have to go through it today. But it is now graded, okay? I graded this one, but I forgot to grade the prime number one. So this one is now graded, but not the other one. All right, well, with this out of the way, we can continue to talk about passing by reference, which was the last topic that we talked about last time. Do you guys still remember what is passing by reference? Or why do we need passing by reference? Okay, tell me one motivation of passing by reference. Why do we want to have the mechanism called passing by reference? Just to refresh your memory, let me just go back to the files that we captured on the 5th, which was the last time that we met in this class. We're going to miss next Friday again, so this class is going to miss a lot of time because there are so many holidays landing on a Friday. Okay, the file that was that we worked on last was the swap subroutine or the swap logic, and it had passing by reference instead of passing by value. Okay, so looking at this sample program, do you guys kind of remember why we talked about passing by reference? What does it give us in addition to passing by value? Yep.
In the line 12, the arrow going both way for I and X and Y, it didn't by value, it didn't change the original value, but by reference, you could change the original value.
Exactly. Okay, that's exactly the point. In other words, passing by reference. Okay. Excuse me, I had a sore throat a few days ago. It is now gone, except now it is now itchy instead of sore. Okay, passing by reference, a parameter that is passed by reference is quote unquote like a wormhole. Okay, it gives you the ability, or gives a subroutine the ability to access an object, a variable that does not belong to it. Okay. When we look at a trace of this code, let me just show both at the same time because I think this will be helpful. Okay, this is the code and this is the trace. When you look at the trace of this code, when we execute line 12, we have to create the return line number column, the column for X, the column for Y, and the column for T. T is the easy one because it is a local variable. And all local variables have a starting value of something that is unknown. Okay. Now this is a very important thing. You have to remember this when you move on to cisp300, because if you forget that a local variable starts with an unknown value and think that, oh, it must start with a value of 0, then your program may work sometimes, but in general, it will not work right. So you got to remember that all local variables start with an unknown value. The return line number is also easy to figure out because the invocation is on line 12, which means there are no other lines following this. So that's why I use post to basically say, by the time I'm done with this subroutine, go to post, and we're done with the entire pseudocode. What is interesting is what is X and what is Y as passed by reference parameters. X is aka column B, also known as column B. Y is also known as column C. Okay, so this is a very big difference between from what we usually say about a bi-val parameter. Because if X were a bi-val parameter, it would have gotten the value of variable I, which at this time has a value of 5. Instead of putting a value of 5 here, I just say that this is also known as column B, and the other one is also known as column C. What is even more interesting is when we start to access or change X and Y. Line 5 of the pseudocode does not really change anything. All it does is to copy the value of X to T. X is also known as column B. Column B at that time has a value of 5, and therefore T now has a value of 5. That part is not very mysterious. That's not really too big of a deal. What is interesting is on line 6. Line 6 copies the value of Y to X. Okay? So we have to evaluate the right-hand side first. We have to find out what is the value of Y at this point. Y is also known as column C. Column C at that point had a value of 15. Okay? So that part is not too bad. The question is, what happens when we try to update X? When we update X, we do not change column E. Okay? That's the most important part of passing by reference, is we don't change the parameter itself, we change the column that it refers to. In this case, X refers to column B because it's an alias of column B, and as a result, column B itself is updated to a value of 15. That is the useful part of a pass by reference parameter. Are there any questions about this particular mechanism? In other words, if we just kind of focus on row 8 of the trace or the execution of line 6 of the pseudocode, do we have any questions about that? Let me find out what's happening outside and see if I can stop that.
Way to handle it.
Someone with a big cell phone is playing the mosquito tone, ringtone. It's back again. What is it? It's high frequency. That is just funny. And the thing is, my microphone probably can pick it up too because it's sampling at 44 kilohertz. It's an electric drill. They are mounting these, brackets, all over the campus. Some of you probably have noticed on multiple hallways they are starting to mount these, brackets. Are those, HD TV flat panel, brackets?
I would imagine.
I think so too. But that's kind of strange. They would mount all these brackets all over the campus. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I mean, if they put a high definition TV behind it, they probably need to have like a half-inch plexiglass in front of that, just to make sure the TV screen does not get damaged. Or stolen. Yep. But anyway, I can't stop that because the guy is actually working. So I'll let him work when I work here. Okay. So are there any questions about line 6? Or the change of parameter X, which effectively changed variable I that belonged to someone else. It is not a local variable of swap. No questions? Okay, very good. And line 9 is about the same thing, except this time we change Y, and Y is an alias of column C, and as a result, column C itself is changed. No questions about passing by reference? Nope. Okay. Now this is a good time that I can go back here and insert a new link because I have reworked some of my notes. I've made it more consistent with the way I talked about these topics today.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. Thank you. Next time, could you stop that before walking into the class? Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to add a new link to some new notes that I have written over this week. So let's go to the notes first, and then I'll show you guys what I have done. There's nothing really new except it is a different presentation. and I think it is a little bit better than the old version. So we'll go ahead and take a look at this. I'm going to put a link back into Moodle, so this way it is accessible from within Moodle. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Let me just go take a look. Let us take a quick look at this notes here that I have written very recently. The way it describes by reference parameter is different from before because it is more consistent with the way I describe by reference parameters in this class. It refers to the name of the column instead of the name of the variable. It also has explanations, to the right-hand side of each line, which I think is more helpful than the previous reincarnation of these notes. So if you have not read the current notes, on by ref parameters, you might want to read that and also read this one too, because this is more recent, and it is more consistent with the way I teach the class at this point. Okay. Any questions about this? It is now linked from Moodle, so you all have access to it now. The major difference between the old notes and the new one has to do with return by value, which is something that we will talk about next. In this case, this is the part that makes the most difference because this is a trace. The trace itself is not very long. What is interesting is the explanation of a particular line gets a little bit long. So I changed the format of the explanation. It is right below the line that it is trying to explain. So hopefully this will make it easier to read the notes and also understand what is going on when a particular line is executing. Yep.
How do you put multiple cells in one row?
I use LaTeX. If you guys really want to know, I can show it during the break. It's not something that you want to try, at least not at this point, because it's it took me about 2 hours to figure out how to do it very effectively, and it's not WYSIWYG. You can do this pretty easily if you use a table within Word. You can merge different cells and just kind of make multiple cells into one big cell. But in the software that I use, it's not as easy. It actually is kind of cumbersome to do it. The other thing is you already know that the PDF version has exactly the same content. So if you look into the PDF and go to, say, the last trace, it looks exactly the same way. It has the explanation, basically right below the line that it is trying to explain. So I think that's going to be helpful, when you're studying for, at least, return values and passing by reference. I suggest that you look at both the old notes as well as the new one. And by the way, this is a really cool software. It's called Zerno, and it is basically a PDF viewer, but at the same time, I can actually annotate my notes. Okay, so that can come in handy if you have a tablet PC. This can be quite useful because now you can look at something that is already in a PDF form, and I think can also deal with multiple different formats too. And now you can actually highlight it, draw some pictures, like an arrow. You can also type text around it too. Okay, this is where the program gets interesting. Okay. So that means, when you're in a class and the class notes is previously distributed by, in PDF, or you just have a PDF version of the textbook or something like that, you can now highlight, the quote-unquote PDF document, but without actually changing the PDF document itself. So all this annotation is